Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1975. Today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons in 1975. If you have not already seen our previous Dungeons & Dragons video, the link to that is in the description below. Unfortunately, we will be starting with some bad news. On January 31st, 1975, Donald Kaye, co-founder of Tactical Studies Rules, suffered a heart attack and died. He was only 36 years old. With Don Kaye's untimely passing, 1/3 share of TSR passed to his wife. His wife was not interested in the new company and sought to sell Don's share. Neither of the other two partners, Gary Gygax and Brian Bloom, had the money to buy 1/3 of the company back. So Brian Bloom's father, Melvin Bloom, bought the share. The company was reformed as TSR Hobbies Incorporated, with Brian and Melvin Bloom owning controlling interest in the corporation. A couple months later, TSR Hobbies Incorporated published the first supplement to Dungeons & Dragons, Greyhawk. Greyhawk was, of course, named after the Greyhawk campaign that Gary Gygax used while playtesting the original Dungeons & Dragons. The Greyhawk supplement was written by Gary Gygax and Robert Kuntz, and provided a major update to the original Dungeons & Dragons rule set. Greyhawk introduced two new classes, the Paladin and the Thief. Based on the knights from medieval epic poems of France, such as the Song of Roland, the Paladin is a specialized type of fighting man. Should a fighting man have a high enough charisma, a fighting man can become a Paladin. Paladins are lawful characters that have the ability to heal, are immune to disease, and can dispel evil. Thieves are either neutral or chaotic characters that are weaker attackers but can open locks, remove traps, and climb nearly sheer surfaces. Thieves can also move and act stealthily, striking an enemy from behind with high accuracy for double damage. Greyhawk also introduced some new monsters. From Greek mythology, Greyhawk added harpies, titans, and tritons. From other European mythology, Greyhawk added bugbears, doppelgangers, druids, hellhounds, salamanders, and will-o-wisps. From Sumerian mythology, Greyhawk added Lamassu. Greyhawk also added ogre magi, based on the Oni from Japanese folklore. From more contemporary sword and sorcery, fantasy, and science fiction novels, Greyhawk added liches and lizard men. Greyhawk also had some original monster creations. These include beholders, floating globe creatures with 10 eye stalks and 1 large eye on the body. Each eye casts a different spell. Blink dogs, resembling African wild dogs, these intelligent creatures travel in packs and have a limited teleportation ability. Carrion crawlers, worm-shaped scavengers whose touch causes paralyzation. Displacer beasts, puma-like creatures with 6 legs and 2 tentacles growing from their shoulders. These creatures always appear to be 3 feet from their actual position. Owlbears, large creatures that are part owl and part bear. They attack whatever they see and fight to the death. Phase spiders, large spiders that have the ability to shift out of phase, becoming invulnerable until it is time to attack. Rust monsters, monsters that can rust equipment nearly instantaneously. Sturges, large bird-like monsters that feed on the blood of other creatures. And umber hulks, large humanoid creatures with sharp mandibles whose eyes can cause confusion. Perhaps the biggest change that Greyhawk brought to Dungeons & Dragons was an overhaul of the battle system. The Greyhawk expansion broke Dungeons & Dragons away from Chainmail's vague 3-tiered battle system, opening the game up to players who were not familiar with miniature wargaming. Greyhawk essentially made Dungeons & Dragons a standalone game. This new system's rules had each weapon have its own accuracy and damage calculations. In order to accomplish this, Greyhawk's battle system utilized several different dice. On top of the standard 6-sided dice, this new battle system used dice with 4 sides, 8 sides, 10 sides, 12 sides, and 20 sides. These dice allowed for more variance in gameplay and allowed for odds that did not rely on probabilities based solely on 6-sided dice rolls. These dice, especially the 20-sided dice, would become synonymous with the game. Greyhawk also added new treasures, new magic items, and new spells, including 3 new spell tiers. Notably though, the Greyhawk supplement included no information on the Greyhawk setting or campaign. Gary Gygax felt that players would want to create their own worlds and campaigns, so did not include his world or campaign in the supplement. At least that is the official reason given. Greyhawk has been called the first and most important supplement in Dungeons & Dragons history. It is the supplement that fully separated Dungeons & Dragons from its miniature wargaming predecessors. No longer did players have to be familiar with other games in order to play Dungeons & Dragons. However, Greyhawk was not the only supplement of 1975. Later that year, TSR released Blackmoor, a supplement written by Dave Arneson. Named after the games that Arneson refereed before the publication of Dungeons & Dragons, the Blackmoor supplement sought to add more to the Dungeons & Dragons rule set. Blackmoor added 2 new classes, monks and assassins. Based on Asian martial artists, monks are a subclass of clerics, although they bear some resemblance to thieves and fighting men. Monks are strong fighters, especially when unarmed, but they cannot wear any armor. Based on the medieval Middle Eastern order, assassins are a subclass of thieves. Assassins are masters of disguise that can kill their assassination targets without getting caught, at least hopefully. Blackmoor added rules allowing for targeting attacks on specific body parts, and rules for underwater adventures. Lots of new monsters had to be added to fill out the underwater realms. Most of these monsters were giant versions of actual sea creatures or dinosaurs. Some other monsters include Sawajin, fish-like humanoid monsters reminiscent of the creature from the Black Lagoon, Ixixatl, magical creatures resembling manta rays, Lokatha, fish-like humanoid monsters that ride eels, and Morgoths, hypnotic wraiths of the deep that will cast magic on any attackers. Blackmoor added new magic and new treasures as well. It should be noted that some of these new monsters and items were created by Steve Marsh. Perhaps most importantly though, Blackmoor included the first published role-playing game adventure, The Temple of the Frog. This adventure, complete with maps and a backstory, guided players through a town and a temple, with a dungeon underneath, filled with monsters and treasure. For the first time, Dungeons & Dragons provided referees a world to manage and players a quest to play. That is the story of Dungeons & Dragons in 1975. That is Dungeons & Dragons 1 year on. Of course, we're not done with Dungeons & Dragons and we'll return to it in later videos. We're also not done with 1975 just yet. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the video game honorable mentions of 1975.